For grinding our millie today, we're going to take a look at our 8-inch mini grinder with our Lockline water system kit on here. They are variable speed, so you can go slow or fast, depending on what your grinding needs are. Now we do adapt these machines somewhat, so what we do is we'll add this steel wheel head to the machine here. And now normally the machines come with these little water cup additions here. So you pour water in this top cup and you have this valve here, and it's really highly inefficient, not the greatest. And then you've got a drain line here with a drain cup. We do add this Lockline water system to this grinder as well, which makes it super, super easy. So here you've just got your adjustable Lockline with a very easy to control water valve here that gives you very precise work. On the back here, it's just a 1/4 inch push to connect adapter, so it's super easy to work with. We have our 1/4 inch polyethylene tubing here that comes from our water source. And all you do is just push it into that connector. And it's in there nice and tight. If you need to take it out again, you push in this orange piece here and pull out your tubing. Push it back in. You're nice and tight and ready to go again. So this is ready to go with water. So I can turn on my water. I can control it here with my valve, easily position it here on my wheel head. So this section here, I don't need this cup. So I'm going to remove that and put it away. But you can see I still have my mount here. So the other thing I generally do with this grinder is once I start using it, I'll just take this bolt out of the back and take this whole assembly off because I really don't need it anymore. Now that that assembly is off, if I turn my grinder back around to the front, you can see it's much easier to work with. I can get my water anywhere that I want. I don't have this in the way. It's going to especially come in handy when I take off my splash guard here to be able to change out my diamond discs when I'm working. I'm going to keep my little drain cup here. Normally I would put a larger tubing on this and run this to a bucket or something like that. But for today, I'm just going to put my drain cup here underneath my drain line and just keep an eye on that to make sure it doesn't overfill. What I generally like to do is prep a lot of these millie ahead of time. And we carry a nice waterproof duct tape from 3M. It's extremely expensive for duct tape, but you really want to make sure, like we write on ours, waterproof. Generally on the other side it says do not use. We make sure people just don't grab this and think it's regular duct tape, because it is not. It is a waterproof duct tape. It is actually exceptionally good at holding two pieces and staying on. So what we generally do here is we'll take little strips of our duct tape and we'll make little handles. So we'll just fold it over in there, attach it to our millie, and just use your fingernail to really burnish it down onto the surface. Now what this does is it gives you a nice little handle on your millie that's going to stay on there the entire time you work, because the water is not going to break down the adhesive on here. So this allows me to put this on my disc, apply pressure on it, and bring it back up without chewing through my fingernails. So let's get started on this one and see how quickly we can get from our grind to our polish on this millie surface. So one thing you want to make sure about with all of your discs that go on your wheel head is that you get them centered properly. While there is a center hole in here and there is a nut that gives you a little bit of help with centering, if you're off on one direction or another on your wheel head and you turn this thing on, it's going to vibrate your whole machine and your entire table. So it's really, really important to try and get this as centered on the grinder as you possibly can so it runs as smoothly as it possibly can. Let's see how that works. So you can turn it on and test it. I got a little bit of wobble to it. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it's not bad. There it goes. I'm going to wet down my disc a little bit. And fine grit discs do not need a lot of water. That's just, a relatively steady drip going on there. So I've got my millie. And what I'm going to do to try and keep my diamond disc wearing as evenly as possible is work from the center of the edge back and forth. And then I'm going to turn my millie and do the same thing again. And we're going to see how well this cleans up. I need a little bit more speed because I'm slowing it down with my pressure. going to turn it. Turn it one more time. And that's probably good. Now let's take a look at the surface of this. See if we can get it dried off. You can hopefully see the little grind lines on the surface of the millie. Cleans up very quickly, very easily. And we did the same thing with our 325 grit disc. Took our splash guard off, magnetically just stuck this down. You got to make sure it's centered so that it's not out of balance. So we can turn it on. They're still pretty good there. Not bad at all. So again, we're going to turn on our machine, get it going relatively fast. I'm going to put a lot of water on it initially just to get my disc wet. And then again, just a little steady drip. It does not require much. I'm going to take my millie that I still have my tape on, works really well, and do the same routine. In and out, turn it around, in and out, and that should probably be it. That's all it takes. Let me clean this off a little bit, and hopefully you'll see the surface that we have on it now. So if we look a little bit closer here, hopefully you can see it's a really nice surface on there. That's my pre-polished surface. Really does not take a whole lot. Again, I want to show you how quick and easy it is to change the disc on here. So there's our pre-polish that we had on there. I'm just going to pop up my splash guard, super fast and easy. Since these are all magnetic backed, the disc just pops right off, super easy. My next disc is my LP66 polishing pad that I'm going to use with cerium oxide. I'm just going to look over and line it up so it's nice and balanced on the wheel head. It sticks right to it. Put my splash guard back in, and we're ready to go. Very, very fast, very easy. So with the polish pad, it's going to be a little bit different. It does not do anything on its own. You're going to need to use cerium oxide with that. Now, cerium comes in a powder form, and we generally mix it about 1 part cerium to 2 parts water in a little squirt bottle. You shake it up, it gets it into suspension, and we'll squirt a little bit onto our felt pad. So initially, I'm going to have some on here, where I'm just going to move it around. And this is called charging your felt pad. So generally you want to try and do this the night before you start using a new pad so it kind of dries and gets into the pore structure of your LP pad. I don't really have the time to do that since I'm showing it to you, so I'm just going to smear this around right now and then we're going to get polishing right away. But generally speaking, you want to do this the night before so it has time to sit overnight, the water will evaporate out, the cerium will kind of stick to your polish pad and works pretty well. Now you'll always want to have that little squirt bottle of cerium handy though, because you're going to need it as you polish. One thing that a lot of people do is they want to put way too much cerium on their pad when they're polishing. It does not require much cerium at all to polish the glass. You just need a little bit on there. If you put too much, it's actually going to act more as a lubricant than it is a polishing. So again, we're going to get our machine running. And you can probably see in our splash guard here, the cerium that we put on is already coming off because it has not dried into the pore structure. And with a polish pad, you just want a tiny drip. You want enough to keep it moist, and that's all. You don't want to get it super, super wet because you're going to wash all your cerium off. So just a tiny little drip, which you may be able to see in the video. Just a drip, drip, drip. That's all it takes to keep it moist. So when it's running, you want to take a little squirt of cerium in the middle, and then take your piece that you need to polish that's finished in your pre-polish stage, and I just go in the opposite direction of my LP pad. Now you can see it's looking kind of milky white around my piece. That's an indication that I have plenty of cerium on this LP pad and I do not need to add any more. You only really need to add more cerium onto your LP on your polish pad when it runs kind of clear water. As long as it looks milky, you are good to go. You do not need any more cerium on that. I'm just going to... And you can see I've still got this kind of milky along the edge, so I'm perfectly fine with my cerium. Now it's starting to get a little bit clearer, so I can take a little bit more cerium, just a touch. So that tiny amount of cerium that's in that bottle is going to last me a very long time. Because it does not take much. Let's see how I'm looking here. And I'm done. That's it. We've got a beautifully polished piece. And the whole process probably took less than 5 minutes for that side. So if I had 50 or 60 of these lined up and do them all at once, you can knock out a huge number of these things. Switch to this side, put your tape, make a little tape handle on the polished side, and do the other side of your coin and knock it out. And it goes really, really super fast and easy. And you've got this beautiful, beautiful piece with fantastic edges that's just ready to go in a very, very quick time frame.